Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back. Let's try this again. We had a little bit of a technical problem just moments ago, but I think we're back in business and we got business to attend to. So let's get right to it. Kash Patel releasing more information about the ICE shooter. He posted this today. FBI Dallas and FBI HQ have been working 24/7 to seize devices and to exploit data, including processing writings that were obtained on location from the guy who was out there trying to shoot ICE agents, but ended up shooting deportees, detainees, resulting in at least one dead. We've got that. He also now downloaded a document that was titled Dallas County Office of Homeland Security, containing a list of all the Homeland facilities, conducted multiple searches of ballistics, and looked for specifically the Charlie Kirk shot video from days after Charlie Kirk was actually shot. Before Charlie Kirk was shot, he searched apps that tracked the presence of ICE agents, and CNN and many others were promoting these apps to target the people who are trying to enforce the law. One of the notes that was recovered read this: hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror. To think, is there a sniper with AP rounds on that roof? Further accumulated evidence to this point indicates a high degree of pre-attack planning. The FBI will deliver more at some point. Now, this is one of the individuals who was there at the press briefing today, and he was explaining to us before we got rudely cut off that this individual did use the ICE app.
Has to stop. The shooter used the ICE tracking apps. Anyone who creates or distributes these apps that is designed to spot, track, and locate ICE officers are well aware of the dangers that they are exposing to law enforcement. It's a casting call to invite bad actors to attack law enforcement officers. It's no different than giving a hitman the location of their intended target, and this is exactly what we saw happen in Dallas yesterday. The media has been amplifying these apps even as we warned them it would only lead to more attacks on law enforcement.
They don't care.
We truly wish we didn't have to say, "I told you so."
Oh!
But here we are.
Oh, I told you so. Yeah, that's a big one. And Caroline Levitt is confirming the same. She said, 3 months ago, CNN irresponsibly gave free publicity to an app that recklessly shares the location of ICE agents. And it has now been revealed the leftist lunatic shooter who opened fire on the Dallas facility was using one of these apps. The liberal media is complicit in the increased threats and violence against ICE, saying we see it every day. They are quick to write fake stories portraying ICE in a negative light, and then they omit the real facts in these cases. And they hardly ever write about the vicious criminals that ICE is arresting every day to make our country safer. They don't. They just actually turn them in to heroic figures because they're communists who are trying to subvert America. But here is one of the articles. I wanted to do something to fight back. So this guy wrote an iPhone app so that maniacs on their side of the aisle can go and shoot them. Kash Patel gave us some details and some data on it. And we've also got more from this woman who explains what happened there when they got the search warrant and searched his residence. And her name is Nancy Larson. She's acting U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Texas. And here's what she had to say.
FBI began its meticulous work at the crime scene. At the same time, we obtained and executed multiple search warrants yesterday for devices and locations associated with the sniper. FBI agents executed a search warrant at the sniper's residence yesterday and there found a collection of notes. First, I want to point out that one of these notes or papers, the sniper explicitly states, yes, it was just me. That statement appears to be correct at this point in the investigation. Notably, these loose notes included a game plan of the attack and target areas at the facility. He called the ICE employees people showing up to collect a dirty paycheck. He wrote that he intended to maximize lethality against ICE personnel and to maximize property damage at the facility. He hoped to minimize any collateral damage or injury to the detainees and any other innocent people. It seems that he did not intend to kill the detainees or harm them.
Yeah, miss.
It's clear from these notes that he was targeting ICE agents and ICE personnel. The tragic irony for his evil plot here is that it was a detainee who was killed and 2 other detainees that were injured when he fired into the Sally Port.
All right, so we know that he wanted to hit the ICE agents. He couldn't hit the ICE agents because he's incompetent. But even after we saw the anti-ICE inscription on the bullet casings, here's what the media had to say about it, because they just can't possibly fathom that they are complicit in murders. And in this case, murders of detainees. You notice how you haven't seen a bunch of TikTok videos of these maniacs dancing around for the dead detainees or detainee? Where are all those? Dancing libs, since they love murder so much. Oh yeah, they only do it for Charlie Kirk. So here's what they sounded like over on the media.
There's no explicitly leftist motive here. Instead, it was motivated by maybe a hatred of ICE.
Despite the motive in this case not yet being clear, President Trump almost immediately blamed what he called radical left Democrats.
Well, it certainly
says and lunatics too, radical left lunatics too, which I guess is interchangeable with Democrats.
It may point to motive. But I would not jump to any conclusions just yet.
So there's this performative nature to this. So he hates ICE, say, but that's not enough.
And while President Trump and members of his administration are tying this attack to what they call rhetoric on the left against ICE and law enforcement, investigators on the ground here say that the shooter's motive remains unclear.
We do not know, however, the motive of the shooter.
So we don't know if this shooter was actually targeting the detainees who were shot or ICE officials.
We don't know.
Nuanced distinction. Someone can perform.
We made that point yesterday. Well, if he wanted to just go shoot illegals, he could just go many locations, to LA or something. There's like 2 million over there. So, not endorsing that, but he doesn't have to go to an ICE facility where there's going to be law enforcement officials if he wants to shoot illegal aliens. So it's a strange thing they can't wrap their head around, but here, we'll close it out.
Something that is politically motivated, but not be aligned with a political movement.
A motive still being investigated.
All right, so shout out to Western Lensman. Give him a follow over there. We're going to repost this one at the top of our timeline so you can follow him. But a great montage explaining that, showing how the left is really having a difficult time understanding motivation. Apparently it's a foreign concept to them. They can't figure it out. They're like, well, we don't know why he shot Charlie, so you better just slow down over there because there could be an ulterior motive. Maybe Charlie cut him off in traffic or something. So here is more. The president was asked about this specifically. Who is doing this, Mr. President? Here's what Trump had to say about it from the Oval Office today.
Who do you hold responsible for the uptick in left-wing violence in the country?
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem. They're out of control. They're saying things, and they're really dumb people. I mean, I look at Crockett. I look at some of these people. They're very low IQ people, actually. But the radical left is causing this problem.
And you can hear the translator for Turkey's president, Erdogan. She's like, no, yeah, Jasmine Crockett's a moron, and they're just radical lunatics, and they're all idiots. And Erdogan's like, yeah, we have those in our country, too.
The right, the radical left. And it's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them. I mean, bad things happen when they play these games. And I'll give you a little clue. The right is a lot tougher than the left. But the right's not doing this. They're not doing it, and they better not get them energized because it won't be good for the left. And I don't want to see that happen either. I'm the president of all the people. But the radical left is causing this. The radical left Democrats are causing this problem, and it gets worse. It gets worse, and it'll be a point where other people won't take it anymore, and that will not be good for the radical left, and we don't want that.
We don't want that because we would rather them just wake up, understand that aligning themselves with murder is not ideal for anybody. Doesn't work out well for anybody anywhere it's tried. But honestly, that's kind of the idea, right? That's what communists want to do. Marx and Engels were both violent revolutionaries from the very beginning. This has been going on for centuries now. So it's happened repeatedly throughout societies, and they're doing it right now, right? They want more violence, and they want to cause the downfall of society so that they can usher in their new classless utopia hellhole that is going to resemble Karl Marx's boils all over his body. It's disgusting. So we'll, of course, keep our eye on this, but we've seen this yesterday. We talked about Hillary Clinton and Joy Reid and how there's this pattern of them trying to win the label game, right? Trying to say that these are MAGA people, or we disavow these actions. They've been instigating and perpetuating and basically demanding implicitly this type of violence for generations now, right? For multiple decades that we have seen, and it's coming out. We're seeing it across society. So we'll see. I hope that, it does not escalate. I hope the president is right. But we've heard the acting, ICE director and others say, man, we're just gearing up for this. And Kristi Noem is responding. So we'll keep our eye on that. Updates on the ICE shooter's motive. All right, now let's turn our attention over to what's happening with Kristi Noem and Kilmar wife beater Abrego. Kristi Noem is not taking it anymore, duking it out with CNN's Caitlin Collins over these attacks that are happening on the ICE facilities. All they're trying to do is follow the law and deport people who shouldn't be here, including this individual called Kilmar Abrego, wife beater who human trafficked people into our country, was let go by the FBI. Now Kristi Noem and the DOJ are responding back over to his petition for a writ of habeas corpus. He says, you can't deport me. I'm an illegal. I have all the rights of citizens and even more. I have due process premium. I have American citizenship plus. I get more privileges than you. I have multiple judges in multiple jurisdictions colluding to prevent me from being deported to Eswatini, which is where he belongs. He actually belongs in Guatemala, which is where his family is, but doesn't want to go there because of pupusas. So Kristi Noem is duking it out. She said the following here: the media refuses to tell the truth, liars, about the violent, criminal, illegal aliens that ICE is removing. Like the monster who strangled and killed a precious baby girl while demonizing the men and women risking their lives to stop them. And the men and women of ICE are heroes. We'll come back to that, but let me catch us up on this response as well. Coming from Kristi Noem, in response to Kilmar's attempts to stay in this country, this is what ICE is doing that's making them so mad. You can't deport these people. Kristi writes, DOJ. All right, here's the situation. Judge, Kilmar surreptitiously and unlawfully entered the United States and has no right to remain here, period. Now, indeed, he had the full benefit of full removal proceedings under the Immigration and Nationality Act. He had a final order of removal that we've read about 100 times here in 2019. And it said he could be deported. They said he couldn't go back to Guatemala, which is where his family was, which was the nexus of his withholding protection because his family in Guatemala was under attack from Barrio 18 and the Papusa gang. So he had due process. He's already had multiple due process. He appealed it and got denied and has made multiple attempts. Now he's got ACLU lawyers and rigged corrupt judges who are handing him off and writing orders to paper over each other's malfeasance. The government first attempted to execute the removal order in March 25. Now Kilmar is back in the United States and circumstances have been returned to the status quo. Okay, so he's still in our country, happy, as they existed prior to his removal. And now the government is now going to remove him to a third-party country because he remains subject to the original order back from 2019. And she says, again, it's withholding of removal from El Salvador and El Salvador only. And there must be some other document out there that we have not seen because there is no evidence from this in the David Jones order. He writes specifically it's about Guatemala. You can read it. We've read it many times here, but I honestly think the DOJ just missed it. And so they've already layered into this El Salvador thing. So they're just seeding the ground on it. But they had a better argument. Remember, the poison pill attorney, Iraz Ruvani, was the person who said that. And we haven't seen any evidence of it. And the last we heard, they didn't even have the A file for Kilmar when they were even making their claims. And I emailed Kilmar's lawyers and said, can you just give me a copy of an order, please, that shows it says El Salvador anywhere? Of course, crickets from them, because they're not going to obviously give me something that they don't have. So in response, petitioner instituted this action challenging both his potential removal to Uganda as well as his detention. Uganda, Eswatini, he doesn't want to go anywhere because apparently the Papusa gangs are global. Now, his claims are both procedurally barred and they're meritless. They're even unserious. As an initial matter, the Immigration and Nationality Act provides a process for him to seek relief from a third country removal. He can file a motion to reopen his petition and seek a stay from an immigration judge, but he's not doing that, right? Because he wants to go into the Article 3 courts and get all of the rights and privileges of American citizens, which is the entire operation here, is to try to basically smuggle in illegal alien status into citizenship status or quasi-citizenship status, so you can't remove them. Now, petitioner has done so, and those motions are currently pending. Now, in addition, Homeland has processes that the petitioner could invoke, which are also currently playing out. But the Immigration and Nationality Act does not permit, and indeed bars, this collateral challenge to removal and detention. And so this court should therefore permit those procedures to play out while respecting Congress's prohibition on this. Now, as to his challenges to removal, he's part of a mandatory class in that case in Massachusetts, and so he can't assert the same claims here. His claims are barred. And his challenge, he doesn't want to go to Uganda, is not even a live controversy. We're not even trying to send him to Uganda anymore. He says, I'm going to get tortured in Uganda, which is, I think, a little racist. Now, petitioner's challenge to his detention are likewise impermissible collateral damage and premature. The Supreme Court permits detention pending removal, which is what we're doing now. Now, his lawyers are also betraying a level of gamesmanship. He's trying to remain in the United States, and this court should not indulge it. For example, while he claims that Costa Rica is his preferred country of removal, he's also expressing a fear of prosecution and torture if he is removed to Costa Rica. Yeah. So he's claiming that his preferred destination country is going to torture him? This is a claim that, if he actually believed it, would presumably motivate him to pick a different place if he's going to get tortured there. So why does he want to go there? So indeed, he has already expressed putative fear of persecution or torture from more than 20 nations who all apparently want a piece of this dude, and has made clear that he may assert fears for any country if he doesn't prefer it. So that's not how this works. Now, this suit is trying to delay the too long delayed execution of his final order of removal. It's 2025. This dude was supposed to be gone in 2019. And so he filed a petition for habeas, and he wants to stay. And they ultimately say it is not effective. He needs to go. And so here's what Kristi Noem said when she was duking it out with CNN.
I would love to see these Democrats denounce these criminals, these individuals that are out there trafficking drugs and trafficking our children, raping our girls and boys and selling them, and people that are out there committing criminal acts, robbing and murdering individuals. I haven't seen these Democrats do that, and they should. Gavin Newsom should. Tim Walz should. They should denounce these activities. Crockett. We should have all of them stand up and say enough is enough. American citizens deserve safety, and we're not going to stand behind any criminals and support them over our law enforcement officers.
But as the DHS secretary, would you say that Democrats are a domestic extremist organization? Yes or no?
Yes.
Views are extreme and they don't align with the American people at all. And I wish that our media and I wish reporters like you, Caitlin, would talk about the victims every day that we interact with, that we send you the stories on that you refuse to tell, about the poor little girl and baby that was strangled yesterday by an illegal criminal and died. That baby died overnight. That was the first news I got this morning when I got up at 4 a.m. Then the next news that I got was that the media had reported that a father had his child taken away from him, when in all reality, this poor little autistic girl was abandoned by her father.
But CNN didn't report that, right? Right, Secretary Noem?
But you know what, Caitlin, just if you guys would just tell the truth about what these criminals are and what they've done in their history.
We tell the truth
and make it
every
about
night.
the victim. That'd be fantastic. We send out about 5 or 6 different press releases every day correcting stories, and I'll send you the copies of the ones that you've gotten wrong that we've been able to correct. But these law enforcement officers are being demonized, and they should be supported because they have families too, and they live in these communities. Their kids go to school there. Their spouses go to work, and they just want to go at night and to make their community and their city safer.
Kristi Noem saying, hey, Caitlin, can you just tell the truth for once in your life? You guys can just do a good job and be honest and truthful. Of course, we know that's not going to happen. So we'll keep our eye on this one. But Kristi Noem is defending ICE and continuing to remove Kilmar, wife beater Abrego Garcia. All right, my friend. So we raced through that segment because we got some breaking news, baby. It turns out James Comey has been indicted. We've got news breaking all over the cables showing that these charges have apparently just dropped. And so we're going to listen in and see exactly what's going on and what's cooking over here as we gather up some documents.
Say he didn't remember things that you would think he would remember because they were rather momentous, and then he would remember other details, no matter how fine the grain. But this is different. With regard to that leak, either he did leak the information or cause someone to leak it, or he did not. And that's not a matter of interpretation. So if that's the false statement, the question is, what's the underlying information that supported the indictment? And the question here is, if it is the same statement that we've been talking about, could he face his former associate and friend, McCabe? And will he repeat on the stand that I was told to leak this by Comey? So that's one of the things we'll be looking at for that source. The obstruction count is really intriguing. That suggests that there was conduct besides obviously that false statement. And that's what we really need to look at. An obstruction count can go from 5 to 10 years of potential sentencing, but it depends on what the obstruction was.
Howie, sorry to cut you off a moment ago.
All right, so let's take a quick look at the latest. We've got this being reported from ABC News. We're trying to figure out what the counts are and if we're going to have a document anytime soon. But here is what we've got from the New York Times, or from ABC News. They say former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on 2 of 3 counts sought by prosecutors. 1 count of making false statements, 1 count obstruction of justice, just days after Trump issued a public demand for his Justice Department to, quote, act now to bring prosecutions against Comey and other political foes, according to sources. The charges now follow Trump's nuking of the prosecutor Eric Siebert in the Eastern District of Virginia. And of course, Letitia James is now going to be next in the crosshairs legally. Trump then immediately moved to install Lindsey Halligan, who used to work with him. And of course, now we're moving fast, baby, because we got a person who can deliver now in office. Earlier this week, federal prosecutors informed Halligan that they could not find probable cause to charge Comey, despite the clear evidence that exists. Now, in a series of social media posts over the weekend, Trump said, you better get going on this. And we were waiting to see what would happen with Pam Bondi. So they're already crying about this is going to be weaponized and whatever. And we've seen a lot of this. In fact, part of the obstruction charge may come from the Arctic frost investigations. And remember, we had an entire mind map listed out. Remember each one of these? These were all of the various investigations the FBI made into themselves. This is how pathetic the FBI was. They said, we have all these leaks happening. Where are they going? How's the media getting our hands on all of this information? And they opened investigations into themselves. Okay, so this one was called Arctic Haze. Then there was another one called Echo's Fate. Then Foggy Falls, Genetic Christmas, and all the things. And what happened was these newspapers got information all over the place. There were 4 articles just in this one investigation, remember? Washington Post, New York Times, Washington Post again, Wall Street Journal. These are all leaks. And in those leaks from the FBI, they had SCI material, influence Comey's mid-year statements. There was Lynch recusal concerns, all of this, okay? This was just one investigation. And they opened up an investigation. They said, who are these people? Who could possibly be leaking? And in conclusion, guess what? Just for this first one, couldn't find anybody. Oh, stupid idiots. Unable to identify sources of unauthorized disclosure. Exhausted all logical investigative leads. We can't figure it out. We're just the FBI. They didn't want to prosecute Comey. They didn't want to prosecute Richmond. They were the leakers. And this was just one case, okay? Do that 6 more times. So, we screw up the first time. It's like you try to do anything. Hey, let me try that. Let me see if I can hit that ball. Okay, I missed it. You missed it again. If you miss it 7 times in a row, you maybe it's just not your game. You just shouldn't play baseball, because you're just not any good at it. So just drop the bat. But this was the FBI doing the same. They were investigating themselves and finding they did nothing, apparently. And we'll continue to see if we can get our hands on the indictment. I'm sure it's going to drop any moment now. But while we're waiting, let's check out what's happening on the cables.
Stating they could not find probable cause to indict Comey. Nevertheless, the U.S. attorney, apparently with her own factual undertaking, decided to go ahead with this indictment. As we just heard, right within the 5-year statute of limitations on these particular statements made in this testimony. James, let's start with you. You've been involved in a lot of these cases. What do you see so far?
Well, Laura, I've never been involved in the indictment and potential arrest of an FBI director or former FBI director. So this is new to a lot of people in the FBI. And it was no surprise to me either. I knew there was a 5-year statute about to expire in a week or so. So no doubt here it comes. This guy played loosey-goosey, it seems, most of his career as an FBI director, but certainly starting at around the time of the 2016 campaign with the whole declination of Hillary Clinton's actions with her computer, and the way he just addressed the public and others, you could tell there was this manipulation going on his part. He really knows how to work the media, as someone said earlier, and knows what to do and get people for him. But we're going to have people like McCabe and Strzok, whether they're going to be subpoenaed and they're going to be brought before a jury, and they have to
FBI
testify
lovers.
whether they're granted some kind of immunity. We'll see where that goes, because they don't want to get perjury charges either. And that will be going 5 years from now.
All right, so we're trying to see if the DOJ has anything for us. They do not yet. Justice Department last post here was suing 6 states for failure to provide voter registration rolls. So nothing there. We do have an update from Pam Bondi. She posted this. No one is above the law, James. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case, from Pam Bondi, which is a good start. And we've been waiting for this to drop. In fact, we were just talking about whether James Comey would be indicted and when just hours ago with Stephen Gardner. Now he's been indicted, so a lot of that conversation is perfectly appropriate. But of course, we want to see what the document has for us, and the indictment is probably making its way into court or through the courts right now from the wet ink of the foreman of the grand juror, sending that in for processing. So we're going to keep our eye on that one. But what else is happening? You can see they got a full panel over there on MSNBC. We want to listen to what that woman sounds like? No, not really.
The FBI or in the retired FBI ranks. Obviously, this is a stain. Now, look, the FBI's been around for 117 years.
Ugh,
James
gross.
Comey was FBI director for 3 years and 247 days. He was fired May 9th, 2017 for cause. He serves at the pleasure of the president. And I'm sorry, many of the things that James Comey did were wrong. There are 4 IG reports. And Laura, I'm wonky enough to have read every word of those 4 reports, and they were scathing. Maybe he didn't get indicted out of that, but as you pointed out, no one's above the law. And Laura, I'll leave you with this. There's a number of people that look at James Comey as the epitome of probity and moral rectitude. But there's also a lot of us that feel like a lot of this, as my colleague just mentioned, was preening and fluffing and trying to work on his legacy. Last thing, 2018, he shows up with Katie Couric at the Aspen Ideas Festival. Her last question to her is, what do you want your legacy to be? He says, I hope to be forgotten. Then book tours, 8647.
Yeah, on the beach.
And now
long walks on the beach with
humiliating
Comey.
indictment.
And James Fitzgerald.
All right, so let's see what else is happening over on CNN, see what they have to say about it, see what they're reporting.
But if it were to go to trial, in the context of what you said, that we've never had an FBI director in the United States indicted for a crime, and here we are making history in that regard.
Oh, we got a press briefing?
What would the punishment be if convicted for the crime, in this case, of
5
lying
years.
to Congress and obstruction of justice?
Right, these are serious charges. I mean, these are felonies. These would definitely carry at least a 5-year. Well, they would carry a 5-year maximum sentence under federal law. Now, we don't know that would actually be what a sentence would bring, obviously, because Comey has never been charged with anything before. He's never committed a crime that we know of it before. So, it's not likely that's what's going to happen, and we're a long way from that, right? I mean, that's what the statutory maximum is for these charges. But look, this is a very serious case, and these are very serious charges that are being brought against the former FBI director, and this is something that has been investigated for some time. The John Durham, who was a special counsel during the first term of President Trump under Bill Barr, had looked at some of these very allegations, looked at some of this testimony, and came away deciding not to bring a case. Clearly, the Justice Department in the Trump second term has taken another look, and they've come away with a different view, and they've done so with just days to spare. Keep in mind that the statute of limitations were expiring on Tuesday, and this grand jury today was their final day before the next grand jury would have been sitting on Tuesday, Aaron, which would have been exceedingly close to that deadline. Remember, this testimony occurred on September 30th. In 2020, if you see that video, that's during the COVID period, right? And Comey was testifying remotely from his home in Virginia.
All right, let's go back over to Fox. Let's see who this fella is.
Your thoughts on where this case might go? And again, we know the backstory here, that the Democrats are going to claim, oh, well, it's just an indictment. They were never saying that when they indicted Trump, right? But now they're out saying, oh, it's just an indictment. It doesn't mean anything. Well, of course, you're presumed innocent. But nevertheless, former FBI director, looks like he was expecting this indictment in some of his comments recently. Your reaction tonight?
Well, as the Democrats told us, right? The grand jury decided this, and we should honor the grand jury's role, and we should give confidence to it. And here it is on the other side, and you're going to hear them cry, and they're going to lament that it's lawfare. But here's the progression of Jim Comey. I knew Jim Comey. I was an assistant U.S. attorney when he was the deputy director deputy director of the Department of Justice. And he wielded much power. He was a very different lawyer, a very different member of the Department of Justice back then. And I saw a progression that came as a result of his attention, his media, attention, his power and influence that he started to yield. We saw him lying, Laura, about whether there were abuses of the FISA Patriot Act, Rule 702. He was willing to lie about that. He's been telling lies, and he's been doing it continually because he has not been held accountable. He didn't have a DOJ that was willing to prosecute him or even legitimately investigate him for what he was doing. We know the history, but I will tell you this. These statutes are there for a reason, to especially give confidence that someone that's hauled in front of Congress is not lying while under oath, and someone is not interfering with the accountability and the transparency that we expect from our government. So I commend them for presenting this. The grand jury did its job, and we'll see what all the details are in the indictment.
We have the moment that I think is really pivotal for this obstruction of justice and perjury indictment that's about to be handed down. Let's watch.
Did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes, you did.
And to whom did you show copies?
I asked, President tweeted on Friday after I got fired that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation. There might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
He leaked it.
It's amazing
He
to hear
admitted
that
it.
all these years later. But explain to our viewers why that moment was so important. What did we learn about Jim Comey?
He's a leaker and a liar.
Was he's willing to try to explain his manipulation, and he got caught. He knew he was going to be caught, that he had leaked information to the media, which is a violation of not just internal protocols, but can be criminal obstruction. And we later would find out that he would lie to Congress and to others about it, and about his role in actually trying to manipulate the media in a direction that he wanted, that would go after President Trump. And Laura, remember, this is just obstruction, and it is lying to federal officials. But remember, this is what Jim Comey pursued vigorously against General Flynn. This is what Jim Comey has prosecuted and pushed through prosecution of other individuals very vigorously. So now we learn why he was backpedaling, why he was trying to explain his prior action.
Yeah, great point about Flynn. I mean, a lot of people describe that as total entrapment. A way to hobble Trump right off the bat. You know, Flynn didn't have a lawyer with him. He was just, oh, sure, I'll talk to you. Remember, they sent the DOJ attorneys over to the White House and just, oh, sure, I have nothing to hide. I mean, he starts talking to them. Next thing you know, they're off to the races against him. He's out. And that was the beginning of the real, their efforts, at least, to stymie and harm the Trump presidency. I think this goes right to the core, Brett, of the proper functioning of our federal government. They didn't like the fact that Donald Trump got elected.
Yep.
They hated the fact that the voters elected Trump. From Obama, playing loosey-goosey with that IC, recommendations about all the...
Yeah, that assessment that they ordered, and then Clapper said, per the president's order, I want you to go and create a Russian collusion narrative. It was all rigged. We got an update from Kash Patel. He just posted this. Today, your FBI took another step in its promise to full accountability. For far too long, previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions and severely eroding public trust. Every day, we continue the fight to earn that trust back. And under my leadership, this FBI will confront the problem head on. Nowhere was this politicization of law enforcement more blatant than during the Russiagate hoax. A disgraceful chapter in history we continue to investigate and expose. Everyone, especially those in positions of power, will be held to account no matter their perch. No one is above the law. Thank you, Kash, for that. This is a big deal. I mean, this is one FBI director pointing out another FBI director. He's saying, from where I'm sitting, you were in here acting corruptly. And we know he was. And he's the beginning of a lot of corruption. And he was so just arrogant about it that, as we saw, he leaked all over the place. And he was just constantly sending classified information out. Here's another one in Tropic Vortex. Remember? Here are the predicating articles here. 2 more. Some New York Times article. 2 to New York Times. Comey asked the Justice Department to reject Trump's wiretapping claim. He's communicating with the media because he has permission to leak classified documents as long as he's stopping Trump. And part of the effort was to actually harm Trump so that his people could win. All right, so that's what's happening now. Still waiting for the documents to come out. Let's see what is happening on the cables. And let's see what Ken Delanian has to say over here.
And this is a moment we have never before seen in the United States. A president essentially orchestrating and ordering his Justice Department to prosecute individuals. It's like the old Stalinist saying, show me the man and I'll find you the crime. That's what we're experiencing right now.
Hello, Ken. Where were you at, man, the last 4 years? You guys indicted Trump 4 times for cases that most of which were all dismissed. Gone. How come you wasted all that political capital? How come Fani Willis's case has been rejected for having an appearance of impropriety at least? Well, it's because they were all rigged. You guys tried to throw them off the ballot and all the things. That's what we get for checking in over there. Let's see what CNN has to say.
That also had been testified on by, at that time, the deputy director of the FBI, Mr. McCabe, who had said that Comey knew about a leak. And Comey had said that he did not know about the leak prior to the leak. He has stuck with this all the way. This has been inspected. But let me just play the exchange with Ted Cruz that may be at the heart of this. But this is the question of what Comey knew about the leak and what he authorized about the leak. Here it is.
On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never.
Liar.
He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
Via Zoom on COVID.
Ty, that's very much at the heart of this. I want to emphasize he stood by it. And as you say, there was an investigation into that, which did not conclude wrongdoing on the part of the former FBI director, Comey.
Because the FBI investigates themselves and they find that they did nothing wrong because they like the scent of their own stink. Here's more from Fox. Let's see what's happening over here.
Deserve to be treated the way that everyone else did.
Well, we will see what's in this indictment. Jonathan, thank you very much. As we await the details of the indictment itself on James Comey, we do have an exclusive interview with J.D. Vance. He's next.
All right. So we're waiting for something to come out. We're waiting, really, for a mugshot, too. But I'm not sure that we're going to be getting one of those today. Let's poke around and see what else we've got. Fox News is reporting the following over here on their website.
Breaking tonight, the Justice Department.
Got that from Brett Baer. What's up, Brett? They say he's been indicted by a grand jury. 2 counts. Alleged false statements within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch. And I was just looking these up. So false statements to Congress. I believe that's 1001. Let's take a look at the actual statutes and pull up what we contemplate they are. There it is, section 1001. And this one makes a lot of sense, as you can tell. So here's what it says. You can't make false statements. Now, this is different than perjury. Okay, perjury is separate because perjury is generally, I swear under oath, all the things. This is different, and it's if you're just in front of Congress. So here, they say, except as otherwise provided in this section, whoever in any matter within the jurisdiction of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch knowingly and willfully, is it subsection 1? You're a grand juror. Is it falsifies, conceals, or covers up by trick, scheme, or device a material fact. That sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good to us. How about 2, subsection 2? Makes any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation. Oh, that feels even better. That's cozy. Look how that slides. Yeah, anyway. Makes or uses any false writing or document knowing the same to contain any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement. So, yeah, so these are even just his testimony, right? So falsifies, is he doing something with documents? Is he tricking you with a fake, auto pen signature? Is there a scheme? Is there a device that's being used? Probably going to be subsection 2 is what we'll see in the indictment, if we had to guess. And guess what the penalty is, my friends? Shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 5 years, or if the offense involves international or domestic terrorism, 8 years. Doesn't apply to judicial proceedings. And with respect to any matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch, subsection A shall apply only to, and so subsection A up here would be all of these categories. It shall apply only to, let's see, administrative matters or any investigation conducted pursuant to any committee, subcommittee, or Congress, right? So there you go. So even with the limiter on that subsection C, well, we're going to limit it. Okay, it's pretty broad. We're going to limit it. It only applies to administrative matters, claims of payments. You can't lie, employment practices, or any of those things. That kind of makes sense. But here, any investigation or review conducted pursuant to the authority of a committee, Congress, a subcommittee, Judiciary Committee, whoever he's testifying in front of, Homeland Security Committee, Senate Intelligence Committee with Ted Cruz, commission or office of Congress, you are busted. 5 years. Felonious James Comey now being charged, probably with that. Let's also see what obstruction looks like, so we can attach that one and see what may be happening here. Lots of different obstruction potentials. And what could it be? Yeah, obstruction. Let's just try this, because lots of different obstructions. Section 15, let's do this. Chapter 73. Wow, you think they'll do 1512C? Wow, that would be amazing. Yeah, let's pull that one up and see if that one applies. Because maybe he provided some written materials or something. Let's see. All right. While I'm looking that up, Mark Elias is on MSNBC and he's freaking out, is what it looks like.
An indictment, a prosecution, but that in the end, justice may be done. When justice is done at that point, it is no longer justice.
Wow.
Kristi, your take on this, because I do believe Mark Elias is laying out something that is really important for the conversation that we're having today and that the conversations we'll have going forward if, to Alicia's question to Mary, that additional prosecutions that the president has called for do come to indictments, do come to fruition. In the end, James Comey may be vindicated from this. If Attorney General James, if she is indicted, in the end, she may very well be vindicated.
Or they might go to jail, Simone. So they're doing an interview with JD. All right, let's check in on that one and see what's going on over there. Because, okay, we'll check the panel.
At least in the Southern District of New York.
Kirk, that heinous crime. The president went on national television and he said what he wants to do next, and that is attack the fundraising of the Democratic Party by using the prosecution mechanism. This is not just a backward-looking prosecution against the president's past enemies. This is a declaration that the president and one of his most important aides, Stephen Miller, has made this point also explicitly, intends to act in the future to use the prosecution mechanism to pervert the 2026 elections, break up Democratic Party fundraising. That's why you go after Reid Hoffman. That's why you go after the Soros family. They're important Democratic donors.
Well, because they're funding terrorist organizations and they're committing massive amounts of lawfare, maybe legally, maybe illegally. That's the point. You have to see if they're doing it illegally. So, all right, they're doing the usual routine. I'm not sure if we're going to get a press briefing. It looks like MSNBC is camped out somewhere So hopefully we can see if that is coming soon. But here are some other obstruction potentials, including 1512, perhaps we get down to C. Whoever corruptly, remember they charged this for a bunch of J6ers and then it was reversed because they were targeting people with fake charges that didn't apply to them, but it might apply to James Comey because these were just people who walked into the Capitol who were invited in. But now here is one potential charge. So we know we've got the false statements charge, and maybe the next one is obstruction of something. So whoever corruptly alters or mutilates a record, I don't know if he did anything like that. Was he destroying stuff? Don't know. Whoever intentionally harasses another person or hinders or tries to create delay. And I'm not sure if there's anything going to be in here. Let's see what might be subsection B or A. If you use intimidation or threats, or if you corruptly persuade another person, subsection B is looking good, or engages in misleading conduct towards another person with the intent to influence, delay, or prevent the testimony of any person, or cause or induce any person to not tell something to Congress. So that sounds about right. So let's take gambles on what's coming out in the indictment. If there's two charges, we'll say it's section 1512. B is what we're going to be shooting for, over under on that. 1512B is what I would expect. Let's see if there's A. Yeah, interference, hindering, delay, or preventing communications to an enforcement officer or judge. That sounds probably a little bit too narrow. It's not using physical force. He's not killing anybody. Maybe he attempted to with the 8647. No one really knows, but probably won't be A. I'm guessing it's going to be 1512B, and we're going to see 181001 for, nope, that's not the right one, over here. False statements to Congress and congressional committees doesn't even have to be under oath. So both those have now come down. Oh my goodness, Stinky Eric Swalwell's out here. Let's see what he has to say.
All of this is going to come out. Bar licenses are going to be at risk if people abused a bar license. And you don't need me because you've heard from other legal experts. But if you brought forward a case that you knew you could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that will put your bar license in jeopardy.
What are you talking about? You can bring civil claims. The beyond a reasonable doubt standard is only for criminal standards, dummy.
Although not.
He was a prosecutor, wasn't he, supposedly?
Obviously, we understand the bar for an indictment is much lower than the bar for actual conviction. But Congressman, we did just get a post.
Right,
Finally,
Aaron, but the prosecutor standard, and I just want to make it clear, is
yes,
you don't prosecute because you think you can get an indictment. When you bring an indictment, you have to believe ethically that you can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt.
I'm glad you said that, and I want to context that, if I may, Congressman, just by saying that we are aware that there have been documents prepared in the Eastern District of Virginia by people who've been working on this, indicating that they did not think that this was a case that could be proven.
So
they had that would have only been presented to Lindsay Halligan, who's now in charge of that office, on Sunday when she got the job.
Yeah, so what? So James Comey had a bunch of other people telling him that they disagreed with his intelligence assessment, so-called, and they still released it. Right? That happens all the time. So what? Some people disagree. That this is called prosecutorial discretion. Not everybody needs to agree. It's not everybody has to turn their keys in order to launch anything. And it looks like the president has made a post. And so let's see what Trump has said out there today. From the president in the indictment of James Comey, he says, "Justice in America. One of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts." Remember, they kept felon. He's an indicted felon. We can get to say that every day. Indicted felon, felonious James Comey. For various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation. Make America great again. Thank you, Mr. President, for that. And the common refrain is going to be the president shouldn't be commenting on these things. And of course the president should. ordinarily it wouldn't be good, right? Because the president has the bully pulpit. They're the chief executive law enforcement officer of the entire world, America. So if there's some other affair that's happening that the president is not connected to in any way, shape, or form, it would be like putting undue pressure on that prosecution. Although he can do it generally. I want these drug dealers to be imprisoned. I want the death penalty for whatever. But if he's like wading in, often, you kind of look at that like, well, you're kind of in a high position putting pressure on somebody else who doesn't deserve it. But Trump, in these cases, is the victim of their crimes. They were engaging in corrupt behavior, obstructing justice, providing false statements, and Trump was the direct victim of the crimes. And of course, victims of crimes have a say in the prosecution. It's not dispositive. They don't control the prosecution. But in this case, the president is also the president. So he's just commenting, saying, look, there needs to be something done on these people. They're going to get away with crimes. And any victim has a legitimate interest in seeing those prosecutions come to fruition. And so the president with an update. Let's see what's cooking on the cables. It's still Stinky Swalwell who made Bang Bang with Fang Fang time.
Talking about the existential threat to democracy. He's showing what we can do. We have Prop 50, which is on the ballot on November 4 to match the seats that were taken in Texas. So show, don't tell. What are you going to do to make it easier in your state for people to participate in democracy as Donald Trump is trying to make it harder everywhere? So Democratic governors really need to step up, Aaron, because we can lose everything. And if we don't win the midterms in November of next year, we will not have a free and fair election in 2028. I promise you. And that needs to be clear to everyone.
So, Congressman,
all right. So we also got Kyle Cheney. He writes for Politico, and he's reporting that the judge, at least for now, has been assigned to the case. Looks like the documents are not up yet, but we do have some indication on who the judge is going to be. This is according to Kyle Cheney, who just... We got it. We got the indictment, man. Shout out to Kyle Cheney for posting this. First one I saw who had it. Here's the full text of the James Comey indictment, and it is not long as we suspected. So we got the court docket up. Kyle Cheney's fast with this stuff. And let me share with you the official docket so we can confirm this is what we've got, man. It's live. James Comey indicted, and the very short 2-page indictment has been released. Couple of other items that have been dropped here. We now know that the case has been assigned to Michael S. Nachmanoff, and that sounds like it's a Biden appointee. We have his background pulled up here. Born 1968 in Washington, D.C. Been there for a long time, it sounds like. He is an American lawyer, U.S. judge for the Eastern District of Virginia. So now he's going to be leading the, at least for now, sometimes these things move around, but now he's getting the James Comey indictment. And of course, James Comey is going to need to be arrested and booked and processed and all the things, just like President Trump was. Nachmanoff was born in Washington, D.C., 1968, University of Virginia Law School. He is Jewish. Of course, after graduating law school, he served as a law clerk, then was appointed by Joe Biden back in 2021, where he was an associate from 1996 to 2000, and he argued other cases, including cases involving crack cocaine. He also, in April 21, they recommended him to be a judge, and Obama, who was mostly an invalid, appointed him, and he got approved. He's on the list of American Jewish jurists. And he was born in America, so that's good. Joe Biden didn't like to appoint people from America, so that's happy to see that. Anyways, we've got that going. So he's going to be in charge of the case, and we have the indictment now pulled up, and here it is, courtesy of the DOJ filed in the Eastern District of Virginia. James Comey indicted September 25th, 2025, a historic day in America. As they love to say, the United States of America versus James B. Comey Jr. Count 1. 18 U.S. Code, Section 1001A2. We nailed it. Now, A2, as we were looking at, is this subsection right here. We nailed it. Makes any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation. That's the one that fit the best, and here is why. They say on or about September 30th, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, James Comey, former FBI director, did willfully and knowingly make a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch. How? By falsely stating to a U.S. senator during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that he had not, quote, authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation into person one, which is probably Trump. So they're investigating somebody. It could be, Trump, Flynn. I don't know exactly what date this was, but September 30th, 2020. And what senator? We're going to dig into that, and they'll know exactly what, the question was and who he was talking about. But obviously, he was leaking, and he then admitted it later. So the statement was false because, as James Comey knew then and there, knew at the time, he did authorize person 3 to literally become an anonymous source in news reports regarding the FBI investigation into person 1. Comey hired somebody and was leaking to them, giving them special access to the materials, and they would leak them out. Then they investigated themselves, as we saw 7 times in each one of these ridiculous investigations into themselves, and they couldn't figure out who was doing it because they knew it was James Comey. So here, all of it in violation of Section 1001A2. Now, let's see what count 2 is. Did we hit it? We didn't. It's Section 1505, obstruction of a congressional proceeding. So not obstruction of justice. All right, so obstruction of a congressional proceeding. Let's take a look at that. 18 U.S. Code 1505. And okay, so we're 50-50 on it, all right? So here's another one. A lot of obstruction charges. And so here's a much bigger one. And he also, 5 years in prison is what he's facing. So we've got that. Let's take a look at how it is fleshed out here. They say same date on September 30th, James Comey did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, or impede the due and proper exercise of the power of inquiry under which an investigation was being had before the Senate Judiciary Committee by making false and misleading statements before a committee, all in violation of 18 U.S. Code, Section 1505. Look at that nice, fresh signature right there from Lindsay Halligan. How beautiful is that? How nice. And of course, signature of the foreperson of the grand jury, redacted so that we can't identify that person. But that's it. That's the 2-pager. And remember the Trump indictments, how they're like 50 pages or whatever they were, big long indictments with pictures and all sorts of color lines and everything. Don't need all that unless you're trying to wage a political battle. But here, this is just justice, man. You can't go lie to Congress. You're the FBI director. You were leaking materials left and right. We saw it in the declassified release documents from Tulsi Gabbard. Now you are found to be not above the law. And a grand jury said, there's plenty of probable cause here for you, James. And we're looking forward to seeing where it goes. Now, there was another document as well. They did not indict him as to one charge, and let's see what that was. As foreperson of the grand jury of this court, at a session held in Alexandria, Virginia, I report that 12 or grand jurors did not concur in finding an indictment in this case for count 1 only. Now, this record is being filed with the clerk and will not be made public unless the court orders otherwise. So we don't know what that other indictment was and whether or not it is consequential, but he's got 2 indictments right now, and I'm curious to see maybe the other one was the 1512B, as we thought. So the judge who will handle this, Michael Nachmanoff, he'll be handling it, and the case will move forward on 2 felonious charges for James Comey. So he'll probably be in contact or is already in contact with them. I would imagine they'll negotiate a self-surrender date for him, and he can just mosey on over to the courts or to the prosecutor's office, turn himself in, he can get booked, he can get processed, he can get his mugshot and all the things, and then the case can proceed accordingly. I would also expect that he'll be released on his own recognizance, probably not held on any bond or any other real strict requirements. But of course, if he were, I don't know, Peter Navarro, maybe the appropriate location to drop this would have been when James Comey was on the tarmac of an airport, and then you just arrest him. Or when he's out walking on the sea, looking for seashells by the seashore. Swoop in and arrest him. Maybe they could send armed FBI agents to knock on his door like they did for Roger Stone and Peter Navarro. Maybe that's all happening right now. But maybe not. So, Comey's been indicted. We're going to keep our eye on this one. Fresh indictment, a historic indictment, as they like to say. An FBI director, the person who used to run the FBI, lied to Congress after weaponizing his office to leak material to harm his political opponents in America. Egregious behavior. He belongs in jail. We're glad to see he's been indicted, and we'll keep our eye on this one. All right, my friends. So let us hear from you and see what you have to say about all this. The news is still processing the materials, but I think we're about up to speed on what came in. And thank you for flagging it for us. And so since we got a late start today and I have an early termination that we have to wrap up here in just a second, we will take your questions and then we'll call it a day. We will forego an after party today because your boy has to get out of here. So let's see who's here on the day. But I'm glad we got to spend some breaking news together. But here, me at this point in this week, it's almost Friday. We're going to be, that's how I felt when the friggin' internet wasn't working. Now it's working. We're glad to be here. Sorry about my temper tantrum earlier. Hey, R. Renorio. Great to see you, R. Renorio. We had a great members only stream this morning. Be sure to check that out. Frank Burke. What's up, Frank? Thank you for becoming a membo. Waldo gifting another membo to WCO PhD in the house. Yeah, YouTube was a little bit rough this about an hour ago. Thank you for that. Member for 13 months, a baker's dozen of membership. Thank you, Kayleen Hokit, for that. Very nice to have you here. Very appreciative that you've been here for a year. It's a long time. We got Off-Label Podcast. Leftist John Brown Club is recruiting college kids. I haven't heard of that club. John Brown Club. All right, sounds terrible. Rub some dirt on it. What's up? It's been rougher than usual for buffering all over the place. That was my problem, not the platform's problem. I don't know exactly what it was, but we rebooted a bunch of stuff and we're back. So thank you, Rub some dirt on it. Sorry for the technical problems. Melanie Snare. Hey, thoughts on Sergio Gore? You know, it's a good question. I don't know a ton about him, but somebody who I respect and appreciate called Amuse on X, he posted a whole article about Sergio Gore, about his opinion on Sergio Gore, and went through, you know, like he's from Malta or something. I forget what the article was, and I was reading through it, and I thought, oh, it's all interesting. And it turns out he got like a cease and desist from Sergio Gore's lawyer. I was like, what? It's like, this isn't true, whatever. So, you know, it's like I didn't have an opinion, and I would have like kind of been more neutral. Then I realized that after this article was written, then the dude sends his lawyer to go after our friend Amuse on X. And I don't take kindly to that. You know, you should be able to just have your opinion and, you know, offer facts. And if you don't think they're accurate, you know, I'm not saying libel or slander anybody, but that's kind of what's happening. So I don't appreciate that. So, you know, that's like a check negative in my thoughts, but I don't know much about him, to be honest, other than what I read a little bit in that article. Melanie Snare, what's up? Thank you for the dono. Thanks for being a membo for 10 months. You're awesome. Caleb Hokit, still lagging. Sorry about that. Sheila Poo, video stinks. Sorry about that, Sheila Poo. Thanks for coming back. Rubos, hey, we cover Rob, the Watching the Watcher family, this live stream and the Wi-Fi connection in the blood of Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Help us. We need you. We take authority over all interference. We bind the prince of the power of the air from this live stream and all future live streams. In Jesus Christ's name we pray, amen. Thank you for the Rubos, man. We needed that one. It worked. You guys send the prayer in and we came back. It worked right away. Thank you, Jesus. And thank you, Rubos, for the prayer. Hey, rub some dirt on it. I'm glad you made a miraculous comeback. You weren't looking happy with the tech. Now, thank you for taking the screenshots. Every time technology doesn't work, I blow a gasket basically instantly. I probably should talk to a counselor about that or something. but I won't. What's up, Rubos? The live stream is back. Thank you, Jesus. We love you, Jesus, for always answering our prayers. Hallelujah. And to God be all the glory. Amen. I don't know what happened. We rebooted. It's all working now. The only thing I can think of is Jesus. Thank you, the Rubos. I appreciate it, man. Awesome prayers. Ospac, what's up? Sharing this. FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on 2 of 3 counts. We got it, man. Breaking news. And so we'll come back on the others. We had some other good another good segment about SCOTUS. But obviously this is more important. Fox has kind of moved away from it already. Kind of interesting. Anna Paulina Luna's on right now. Economath says, fingers crossed that Comey gets a pre-dawn search warrant raid. Yeah, I know. Is he going to get the same like leg shackles and leg irons that they gave to everybody? Is he going to get the same treatment that they gave to Steve Bannon? I doubt it, because Trump's not like them. Don Goff, what's up? I don't think they care as much about Comey as what being able to prosecute will allow them to uncover. All start, Comey didn't eliminate himself. Yeah, I don't think that they're going to put him in custody like Epstein, because he's not as serious of a flight risk, but yeah. Comey, I think, is a cowardly person. So he would absolutely take a deal if it implicated somebody else. And we were gaming this out before. It's like, who would you indict first? Like Hillary, Obama, Comey, Clapper, Brennan. Who would you go after first? I think we played this game. I mean, I think like Hillary, if you could come up with a big case against Hillary, she would just wreck everybody. Like, no, Hillary, like you'll have a shot at the presidency. Just give us evidence on everybody. She's like, perfect. That's great. Whatever you want. I'll just tell you whatever. Right, because then you use them to go after everybody else. Others are a little bit more true believers. So which is the person who'll flip the easiest? Comey's a coward, so he may do it. Hey, Tara Rayner. Hey, Comey. No one's above the law. Great news. Good one, Tara Rayner. You can hear that echoing through the canyons of justice. 28 months as a member. You're amazing. Curtis Bartle, what's up? MAGA just keeps winning. Yay. Yeah, today's a big one. We've been waiting for this. And hopefully there are more to come. This is just the start of something big. What's up, Leonard? The seashell bit was an obvious lie. The corrupt Dems in the media, they buried it. One old guy's opinion says the expression on the CNN faces is that our poop doesn't smell bad. That's what they think about themselves. Like they can commit corruption and all the things, and they just are happy with themselves. They give themselves stickers. One old guy, can you hear that outside? No one rioting, assaulting, or offing people. Congressman Crap My Pants Swalwell. That's a fun one. Crap My Pants Swalwell. Kind of reminds me of Doggone It or Daggone It. Anyways, that's a good one. Crap My Pants Swalwell. Philip Butler. They are really frantically concerned for Comey because they know that dude is going to spill his beans all over the place. We got Fred Pedamonte. Why is there a statute of limitations for all crimes? Predominantly so that evidence doesn't get stale, and you want to encourage quick prosecutions. Like you have a right to a speedy trial. We want to encourage speedy trials. You don't want the government to arrest you for DUI, hang on to your blood for 15 years, and then charge you 15 years later. You know what? That guy started to act up. Does he have an old case that we've been just hanging around forever? Oh yeah, let's go get that blood out of there. Of course, there's spoliation of evidence that happens. You want the blood to be tested within a year for most cases, misdemeanor cases. So they want to accelerate. Evidence goes bad. Witness memory goes bad. Officers forget what they've done. They come in and testify. Oh, I don't know. It was 5 years ago, 7 years ago. It still happens. Many felonies were 7 years SOLs. One old guy says, the difference between Biden and Obama, Biden is an inset heteroped. Obama is a coke-snorting, openly closeted man-lover man who married his college boyfriend. Oh, gosh, that might be true. Eskil, what's up? Thank you for becoming a supporter. Great to have you. We're going over to Boiling Point Live tomorrow, 12 Eastern, 9 a.m. So if you're a member, come join us over at Boiling Point. You want to come check it out at Rumble, Boiling Point Live. I'm pretty sure that's when we're going live. And then we'll come here and we'll do a stream in the aftermath. Mark Butcher, what's up, Mark? 21 months as a member. Thank you, Mark, for being here for so long. You're awesome. Hope Comey goes away. Biology Always Wins says, happy birthday, Joey. Save me a cupcake. That's going to be a tall order. He saves some food. As long as he has his fill of cupcakes, then he'll save some. Milo phone bill. We forgot to pardon Comey? There's Biden. What? Man, he was rough. Look at that. Look at those pupils. Rough. Hey. Yeah. Hey, Stephen Gardner. Shout out to Stephen Gardner. Yeah, we just interviewed over there. It was a fun stream. Had some fun with him. And we were talking about, is Comey going to get indicted? So, of course, he has been. One old guy. Is that John Doodoo Brown Club's, I don't know what that is, recruiting future crap my pants? Like Eric Swalwell? Maybe. I'm not familiar with the group. Comey might be Hillaried because he may roll over on her and others. Hopefully not. We wish Comey a long life, and we hope that he finds Jesus and starts to be honest with himself and America. My friends, thank you for sending those in. Sorry I got to run so quickly today. We were hoping we would have a more full stream until we ran into tech support problems. We got some comments on locals as we wrap it up. We got opposition to application for a stay from Doc Master Elliott in the house. What's up? And Duncan says, just keep talking. Says, yep, everything is in and out. Try again in an hour. Comey's been indicted. We got this one from E Special Sov. Hell's coming with me. We got this one from Viva and Rai T. Even my dress shirts are schmediums. Thanks for representing us at the memorial. Yeah, look at that. You don't want your shirts to look like sailboat, sails. Hard and Patriot. Trump's immediate next move should take Swalwell's suggestion and go after law licenses, like they did for Republicans. They went after everybody. Like, where's Jeff Clark's law license? They went after Trump's attorneys. All the Dems that made BS lawsuits, like James, Elias, and all of those that weaponized the courts. And Elliott also shared this one. If you would prefer a site without the ads, you could just go over to the U.S. code provisions over at house.gov. That's probably better. Those don't just show up in the searches as readily, but you're probably right because all those ads on the sidebar are kind of annoying. Elliot, thank you for those. And my friends, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us on this pretty, impromptu breaking news stream. We're going to see what the fallout is for that, of course, and we're going to come back tomorrow to get into it again. Wonky schedule tomorrow on Friday. So we'll have a live stream over with Boiling Point Live on Rumble, 12 noon Eastern, about 9 a.m. our time. Hopefully we see you there. Then we'll come together. We'll see what else is in store on Friday, have some James Comey fallout, probably hit the Supreme Court segment, and then make it a great stream. But we'll pause here for the evening. We want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. Big shout out to Donut. Thank you, John. Thank you, Carrie B. Thank you, KB. We got Gigam Gigam, Elliot, Just Rhonda, Neuro D, Janik, and Dog Digger all modding the fort down for us. Keeping things so nice and beautiful around here. We're going to pause for the evening. I want to thank you for being here. I want you to come back tomorrow because in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. And G. Tria, thanks for sending this one in at the end. Check this out. The James Comey case just got assigned to a Biden judge, Judge Michael S. Nachmanoff, as we saw. Thank you, G. Tria, for squeezing that one in at the end. My friends, make it a great night. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.